AI is that you learn by doing. I think it's always very hard to try and understand something conceptually without actually having a crack, getting hands dirty, and seeing how it works. So when we come to talk about AI, one of the most helpful things I think you can do is try it, see how you feel about it, see what works, see what might not work, and then start to think about how it might be useful for you and how it might not be useful for you. We're going to talk about bullshit and botshit, which we'll get to in a little bit. We're going to write an article using generative AI. Now, we're going to do this in groups, so there is going to be an element of group work, and I should warn you that because of that, it does mean that we're relying quite heavily on the internet. So today's session is slightly reliant on the Wi-Fi working for us. If it doesn't, we'll talk around it a bit more and we can still discuss, but hopefully that will work and hopefully we'll be able to get that task completed. And then we're also going to consider whether or not we trust AI, which we know is a big question, but we think it's important to think about.
Okay, so we're going to begin by asking you to share your views and experience of using AI. So if you can, go to generative.com on your phones and mobile devices.
Just going to swap it over here, so don't worry about the code disappearing, it will reappear.
And if Wi-Fi skips you, patching in slow to go to your fashion professional answers. Okay, so the code on the screen, so that's 66, 61, 40, 84.
And it should just be mentimeter.com, is that right?
Menti.com.
Oh, menti.com.
Yeah.
This isn't a trap, I won't know it came from you. put on some suggestions of ones that you may want to use. We had originally got Perplexity on here, but we thought it would be blocked, although that has worked for me this morning. So you're also welcome to try using that one, but feel free to use anything that you have a login for. We'd just be interested to see what you've got. If anybody does need to as well, we have some laptops that you're welcome to borrow. We have a couple there, so if somebody does want to borrow a laptop so they can get online, we have Pilot loaded around there, so you can use that. Yeah, there is a couple of things that will definitely suggest places that might get open. Sorry everyone, we can just now quiet down because we're going to discuss. Thank you. So, how does everyone's trip look?
Busy. Definitely need a car for mine.
Yep. Is it suggesting the bus, or is it suggesting any
It's
other
suggesting
transport?
trams,
Okay, yep.
but no train, no buses.
Maybe just not
Is anyone taking the
arriving
road?
at 8 o'clock and arriving here at 9?
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, just a quick window run ferry, perfect.
I went to a breakdown after the 10-minute breakdown that is doing that time. It tells me how much minutes it's going to take to get in a car.
Yeah, perfect. So Perplexity tried to do that for me, but gave me timings which then also didn't really make sense in terms of the walking time it was going to take to get between places. So it was really helpful for thinking about things like, okay, it's going to be 40 minutes on the bus, but but it was also telling me to get a bus from Laxey to Heal, which, as you can imagine, is very regular and very easy to get. I also had sunset in Heal at 7 o'clock. Sunset tonight is 6:15, so I think that will probably be a little bit tricky to watch. And some of the timings just don't quite always work. Now, obviously, it's a great jumping off point, so yes, fantastic, I've got some places on the Isle of Man that I can go, but because you are people who live on the Isle of Man and know the Isle of Man, you are probably able to think, okay, actually, some of this isn't really going to work. You might also find that you've got some odd choices of where you're going. I know that sometimes it will suggest you head to the Manx Museum for 8 AM. The Manx Museum opens at 9:30 in the morning. So these are all things that, although if you didn't know the island and you didn't link up any further information, would sound very plausible, it might not actually be the most helpful thing. And this is part of why we need to think about AI with an element of caution at times. So, one of the things we're going to talk about is bullshit and botshit. What's bullshit?
Nonsense. Untrue.
So, bullshit, academically, is human-generated content that has no regard for the truth which human then applies for communication and decision-making tasks. Okay. What do we think botshit is?
The same but computer generated.
Sorry, I missed that. Try again.
The same but computer generated.
So there is an element of that. There's an impulse to think about botshit in terms of being the computer just making stuff up, so essentially AI having a hallucination. Actually, when we talk about botshit, what we're looking at is chatbot-generated content that's not grounded in truth, but then is used uncritically by humans for communication and decision-making tasks. So you're still the one that's making botshit happen, just as you may be making bullshit happen, when you look at stuff that's produced by AI or generative AI without actually applying that kind of critical lens and thinking about what it's produced and what might be relevant there. So obviously, with our trips on the Isle of Man, at first glance, they probably looked all right, but when we actually have another look at that, instead of passing that on to someone or telling someone you've got a great schedule for the day and here's what we're going to do, you might just need to do a little bit of checking to see what times things open, to have a look at when sunset is, to have a look at what the transport links actually are and what's going to be available.
Basically, what I'm trying to say here is you don't know what you don't know, and neither does AI. So like anything new that you may be concerned about, the best way to take is a risk management approach. So consider what you know and whether you know to double check the information presented to you. So like the activity, see the data, if you know where we can get from the other man, if you can put the same results in, we're trying to find a country in England or in globally where we go and try to follow that, we would then take more caution about and want to research it a bit more, not just take it granted what was produced on the results of AI. So if you use AI for something you already have a certain level of knowledge about, it's easy to review results and mistakes, and also then build your confidence in checking the reliability when you're using it.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is one of our exercises today. We're essentially going to write a publication because, of course, you've all remembered that you have an article due for a very, very important magazine. The journal needs you to provide that within the next 10 minutes, and you really have to get that written. So what we've done is produced a Google Doc, which you should be able to get to. We've got the QR code and we've got a tiny URL for that. So I'll just give you a tick to make sure everybody can get to that, and then I'll pop it on the screen as well. Has everyone got that needs it? Fabulous. Okay, so we have our Word document here. So we've used AI to produce this. What we've done is based it around the themes of the conference. So we asked Claude to write us an abstract. This is one that's often talked about as being really good for academic work. I've heard a lot of people talk about how good Claude is for essay writing, even though it doesn't actually directly write you essays. There's ways that people can use it to produce work on there. So this is something that people have often talked about as being helpful for it, so we thought that was an effective one to write our abstract with. So we plugged in the themes of the conference and we asked it to write us a abstract for a journal article on the topic with those themes. So this is the abstract and it's produced to us. What we've then done is taken the abstract and popped that into Copilot and asked Copilot to develop a title for us. So this is why we now have the title. So of course, the article that we're all writing today is Harnessing AI for Sustainable Development and Wellbeing of the Isle of Man, a case study. So we've got our abstract there. We've also pulled our keywords, which we asked Claude to produce as well. So we have the keywords here, we've got our abstract, and we've got our title. What we don't have is the rest of our article. So we pulled these sections based on what it said is going to be contained within it, although if anyone would like to add a different section, you're very welcome to. So what we're going to ask you to do is try and group up at least a little bit, because we realise there's a lot of people and not that many sections, and we're going to ask you to try and write the different sections of this article based on the abstract and also based on the title. So you've got the information there, you know what the conference is about today, and from there we'd like you to try and fill in the information there. So we have some laptops available. This should be editable. You're allowed to use whichever AI you would like to do it, but please tell us which generative AI you're using. So you've just got the option there, put the square brackets, just delete the square brackets out and pop in which bit you're using. What we're going to do is try and get you into rough groups, and then you can say which section you're going to do, just so we're not all trying to write the same section at the same time. And if any of you do want to hold off a little bit until other people have populated their sections, we've got about 10 minutes, so that should give you a bit of time there. You are also very welcome to try and refine it a bit, so don't feel that you have to just copy-paste in the first thing it produces. You can have a look at what it produces and then go back and ask it to amend it slightly or include different things if you feel that that would be beneficial. So, with that said, in terms of groupings, how would be best to do this? I think we have, shall we do chunk, and then maybe 3 groups out the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So we have some laptops available because obviously we realise copy and pasting might be slightly easier with a laptop. Do feel free to ask if you would like one, but you're welcome to use phone if you're happy with that. I think we need to start wrapping up just because of timing. So please get your documents as soon as possible. That would be fantastic. Okay, so we'll leave the document available just so people can actually have a look at that. We're going to get it attached when the conference paper goes up online as well, so we'll make sure that you do have access to that. I would encourage you to have a read, even just from the abstract itself. It definitely mentioned all of the things, but it did so very generically. I think that was an abstract that was very difficult to do things from, but of course with an abstract we tend to need that after the paper's written so we can summarise what's in the paper. So what I will also do is get it to write another abstract based on the paper we've produced, just to see what the difference there would be. However, this is a common theme with a lot of the AI. There is a lot of refining that's required, and there's a lot of thinking about the fact that although there's a lot of words and they may seem good, there's not necessarily going to be the substance there's not going to be the references there, and if there are, consider whether the references are actually the ones that you would be using if you've done that research independently, if you were knowledgeable about the topic.
Okay, I'm conscious of time, so I think I'm meant to go away for questions. I think it's just going to be easier to sort of do a show of hands or an answer to the room now. So firstly, did we write our article? No. Who thinks yes? No.
I don't think it'll get peer review, I don't know not.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think you, like you said about subject knowledge, if you've got knowledge about something, you think no one hasn't, but if you haven't, it's like, well, yes, it has. So if somebody that's just starting off, like a student in a program or anything like that, think, wow, that sounds amazing, I'd never be able to put something like that together. But somebody else that's been in academia for a long time using it.
That's perfect. So if I had more time, I was going to say, kind of houses that I was kind of virtual lecturers or teach up in the room, sort of say, as somebody seeing these without assessment exams coming in, you can kind of sort of spot them aware of that sort of thing and sort of sharing that with the room. But you need that knowledge and that evidence and that to kind of really design.
I think the difference is we produce an article, we didn't write it.
Yes.
And that's what's interesting to see. So who would say that you, in the room here, have written the article? Hands up if you think you've written it. No, and hands up if you don't think you wrote it. You can be on the wall. Yeah. So generally there, people are largely of the opinion that you haven't written that, you have, as you say, produced it, but it's not necessarily being written by you, it's being produced.
Okay, I was giving you.
Okay.
Do you trust AI? Yes or no? No.
Can we do a
You do that, that's fine.
Trust it to the extent that it can make a decent layout for me. I wouldn't trust it to know everything that I'm trying to talk about.
Exactly. Helpful tool, but you need to know that it's not being helpful at times. So basically, something to think about, because I realise we do have to stop now, is just think about risk mitigation if you are going to be using AI. This is really important. You need to be aware that there are limitations to this. A lot of people think of it as smart Google, as something that will just be able to produce all of this information, because there's so much information online, but it is flawed. So do just be aware that there are limitations with it, and also at the moment it tends to be quite easy to spot in assignments. I know that myself and my colleagues have found that that's been the case, and we've been able to pull that off as well. So it's just something to be aware of in peer review, academic articles, all that jazz. It is being used, and it's not necessarily good. And then just, we've got a reference there to a fantastic article about risk management